pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we have a roll call, please? Here.
Smith? Here. Mr. Tragowski? Trukowski? Mr. Westfall?
Here.
Let's see, who are we missing?
Mr. Taylor.
Mr. Taylor. Okay.
With two people missing, Mr. Grody, would you please come take the stand, please? Okay, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for the Tuesday, May 19th, 2015 meeting. Does anybody have any changes or additions? None so appearing, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the Tuesday, May 19th meeting.
So moved.
Do we have it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Before we go any farther, I've got two things I'd like to do. First of all, I would like to welcome Amy Randall as Director of Building, Planning, and Zoning, and also, she's not here, but Jenna LeCount as a Deputy Director, and I hope you like it as much as we do. Hope you have as much fun. The Colerain Township Zoning Commission meets on the third Tuesday of each month at 7 p.m. on the Colerain Township Trustees Chamber, 4200 Springdale Avenue, Colerain Township, Ohio. As specified in Section 3.2.2 Roles and Powers of the Colerain Township Zoning Resolution, we hear zoning change requests, recommend either approval or non-approval, and forward them to the trustees, who are the legislative body for the township. This process is governed by the Ohio Revised Code. For any of you who are not familiar with the procedures, we will try to explain them as we go. First, we have a minor amendment to a final development plan. The way that works is first the zoning staff makes a presentation, then the applicant makes a presentation, then the zoning commission has a discussion, and it's followed by a motion to approve or deny the request. Then there's a roll call vote. So, the final development plan is for case number 1188. I missed an item. Public address. That's for anybody who would like to say anything to the zoning commission that is not on the agenda. Is there anybody who would like to do that? Okay. Now it's time for a final development plan for case number 1188. Minor modification to a final development plan for the Speedway fuel station at 11620 Hamilton Avenue. Staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Have a brief presentation for you summarizing the staff report and findings as we reviewed this case. This application is for the addition of a 28 square foot building addition on the front of an existing convenience store. This small building addition will act as a beer cave that will be accessed in the interior of the store and will result in an addition of the building protruding out from the front wall into an existing flower bed. In addition to this small building addition, they'll also be upgrading the gas tanks, lines, and dispensers on the site. As a result of this project, there will be some concrete replaced as well as asphalt overlay on the site. This is a project that had a final development plan approved in June of 1989 following a zone change to what was at that time the EE planned retail business district. The site currently exists in the PDB zoning district, so planned business district, and the existing convenience store is a permitted use in that district. The additional building square footage will result in a total building square footage of 3,852 square feet, and there are no restrictions on the building size associated with this final development plan or the district. The site, the application proposes no changes to the circulation on the site, the ingress or egress, or to any of the required landscape or open space areas associated with the development plan. The site plan noted that there would be an increase in parking spaces from 16 to 20. However, upon discussion with the applicant, came to realization that this is simply counting the spaces out in front of the pumps rather than adding any additional spaces to the parking lot itself. So there's no change in the parking on the site. The highlighted area in yellow there on the screen shows where this building addition will be added and protruding from the front of the existing building. And then this is the proposed landscape plan. The only landscape material that will be removed will be, they're highlighted in yellow, 4 shrubs that are in that bed just in front of the building. All the rest of the landscaping that's shown on the site will remain. And the applicant noted that if any of the landscape material does end up dying as a result of any of the repaving or putting in the tanks, that landscape material would be replaced. There will be some one face change to an existing sign, but there are no new signs proposed as a part of this project. So the staff recommends approval of this minor modification to the FDP.
Thank you. Does the applicant have any presentation? Okay.
Thank you, though.
I have a comment for the applicant.
Okay. Can we go down the road like we normally do? Mrs. Smith?
I don't have any comments.
Okay. Mr. Lau? Could you come to the podium, please? State your name.
I'm John Cox with Speedway.
If you look on your very own existing plan documentation, pictures that you provided, in the upper left-hand corner, you will see something that I noted when I was out there. The fencing meant to enclose the dumpsters is being used to store what appears to be excess merchandise and maintenance equipment, and the 2 dumpsters are sitting out 10 feet in front of the enclosure in which they're supposed to be.
Yeah, I noticed that. I work for the construction site, not for the actual store, and that's going to be cleaned up. And I promise you that'll be taken care of when we do everything. We're going to have the store closed for about 7 to 8 weeks, so at that time we'll police everything up real well.
Well, more importantly,
Shouldn't be there in the first place. I definitely will. You have my word on
The
that.
reason we approve fences and require them in final development plans is to put dumpsters
Use them
in,
properly.
not to store stuff so
Right.
that dumpsters can sit out in front.
Mr. Grody?
No comment.
Okay, I have no comment either. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody have anything else they would like to discuss before we vote? We're ready to vote then?
Need a nomination.
Okay, the chair would entertain a motion to accept the 1188 Speedway 11620 Hamilton Avenue minor modification to a final development plan.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve case number 1188 Speedway 11620 Hamilton Avenue minor modification to a final development plan. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Grody?
Yes.
Mr. Lau?
Aye.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Westfall?
Aye. Okay, motion carried. Next on the agenda is a public hearing. We don't have one tonight. Next is an informal, or two informal case reviews. An informal review is the zoning staff may make a presentation of the concept plan. The applicant also may make a presentation of the concept plan, and the commission will have some discussion and make recommendations to the applicant. Staff, do you have anything?
No, we don't.
Does the applicant for, I'm sorry, this is for 11184 Colerain Avenue, where we're going from, okay, I'm confused. It's now B3 commercial district, and they want to change it to R1 rural residential or R2 estate residential. Is that what it is? Okay. Now, do the applicants have anything that they would like to present?
Sure, real quick. We're just under contract to purchase this property.
Mhm.
And before we purchase it, we just want to make sure that it's developed, that we can develop a residential house on it. It's going to be for our own personal use or build. And we want to make sure that we do, if they build on it and put a garage or something like that for equipment storage of our own in the future. So on that, and I want to make sure that as far as putting a driveway into it, where can I do that on that property?
Okay. Well, I read the letter that you submitted, and some of the questions on there, in your second paragraph, you said the reason you want to meet with us was to, one, see if there are any property use restrictions that we may be aware of. If we change it to those, you can build a house on it.
Okay.
The second one was, does our proposed use of the property conflict with any proposed or future vision of that zone? The zoning commission may have that for that property. At this point, it's in the very stages, because we had hoped for, I don't know, they moved out of there about, 3 or 4 years ago, that somebody would buy that building and use it. They just started tearing it down.
Oh, you're talking about Miami Valley Labs?
Miami Valley Labs. So that's still in the infantile stages.
I understand.
We're not sure what's going to happen out there.
Can I ask a question here?
Sure.
I mean, as I looked at it, in essence, you are on the backside of the P&G property.
Correct. It is.
So you're taking a slice of property off the back of the larger P&G property.
Exactly.
And wanting to use that to put in a 33 acre.
Yeah, I think when P&G purchased that property years ago, they bought it as an addition to the larger part of the Miami Valley Labs, and it really doesn't help them in any way. And I work with them quite often, and that's how this code came about. So
That's what it looked like to me.
yeah, they're just dividing it off.
Fighting off a piece of the back
Small
side.
chunk.
That even let's just say, something came in.
It won't affect the
Miami
200
Valley.
plus acres that are over there associated with Miami Valley Labs.
So,
Yeah.
I don't think that would change the developability of the principal P&G space.
Then the third one was to ensure that a building of a residential structure, an 8-story building, will be approved by the commission in the future. We cannot answer that question because whatever the future is, we may not be here. It may be somebody else. And also in number 4, what are the current and or future utility services that are available? The current, it is what it is. In the future, we don't have any idea.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. I think it's septic at this point.
It is because P&G had their own
Wastewater treatment.
treatment center. So it is, it probably is.
Okay.
I do not know the answer to that sitting here, but I would guess. But the rest of it out there is.
Okay, that would make sense. And then that's really it, I think.
Okay. I mean,
Well, as far as the access into,
yeah, how about your access?
it would be off Old Colerain Avenue. There used to be, looking at the 1938 aerials, a residential house on a portion of the property.
Okay.
Not too far from where that water well or water thing is
Yeah.
by the curb. So there's a way to get in there outside of the road barriers. There's a opening there, and there's one up further closer to those residential homes near, I don't know the street, Timber something, right there, sort of top of the hill.
Okay, I'd have to go out there and look. I haven't been out there for a while.
Okay. But as far as cutting with a bobcat or something, cutting it off the road into the area is a problem to make a driveway so I can get in there. So I need to bring equipment in just to sort of clear out some of it hasn't been cleared in 40, 50 years.
That didn't surprise me.
Is some of it though, is some of it look like it was being farmed?
There's 11 acres
11 acres.
of farmed area up there.
On that top flat plateau.
Correct. So it's just really coming off Old Colerain, trying to get into that area.
Do you plan to continue farming?
There's a farmer that's been farming it under contract with P&G for years, and he's continuing to farm it and probably continue unless some type of property use would change. I don't see any reason to change that. Let them do that.
That was just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have a way to get on and off of it, and you'd like to clear some of that now, is that what you're saying?
After purchase, we're going to start working on it over the next couple of years, just clearing out the honeysuckle and
Yeah.
whatnot. Just trying to get it so we
By
understand.
all means, clear out the honeysuckle.
Right.
Yes, sir.
As I recall, you've got some fairly steep stuff in the front though. You've got an elevation difference in the front.
It's fairly flat along Old Colerain up the top, and then it does drop off towards the creek in the back,
All right, so you would build on
the front half, closer to where the other homes are along Old Colerain.
leave the farm or farmland if you wanted to.
Right, and the rest be woods along the creek.
Are there any current structures on the property at all?
There's not,
None?
none.
That scarred area that looks like a kind of a straight line running diagonally across that, is that some sort of a crude oil line or
There
something?
is, there's a crude oil line across the property, and there's an electric utility that crisscrosses the crude line as well. So there's a large electric tower in the farm field. And then, like I say, the petroleum line does cross it. I don't know which petroleum, if it's TEPCO or BP or who.
If you could speak up, sir, I
I
have
don't know
difficulties
I
hearing.
don't know the ownership of the petroleum line, but I do know there's an easement for petroleum and one with Duke for synergy across electric.
What was P&G using this property for, if anything?
Nothing, as far as I know, nothing. Yeah,
They haven't been dumping on it or anything like that?
no.
Okay.
It's not the way P&G
P&G doesn't do anything. Okay, any other questions?
I guess, just out of curiosity, what would be the advan, are you requesting a zone change, or you just?
Not at this time. I just want to make sure that it's something, because P&G changed it from rural residential to commercial or business district to tie in with the Miami Valley Labs property. So I want to know, is it going to be hard to bring it back over if I need to when I want to build a house?
So you're not requesting a zone change at this time, just informational type stuff?
Yeah, I'm still in a purchase contract situation, so I can't do that on behalf of P&G anyway. So after I purchased it, I'll be coming back at a later date to do that.
Okay, thank you.
When they bought this land, they didn't make that all into one, it's not all one plot, is it?
Currently it is. It's one large parcel, and so there's.
So we gotta
it's
break
all-
it out again?
They are breaking it out right now, so they do have their group working on that.
I haven't received any.
That's unusual. Usually we like to put things together, not take them apart.
Yeah, I haven't received any requests for subdividing. Yeah.
to the idea that there's going to be something replacing on the.
Right.
A question for the staff. I noticed this is registered land. I thought we were getting out of the registered land business in Hamilton County. Are we still in the registered land business?
I couldn't tell you. I'm not sure about that.
They're trying to.
I know they're trying to. I thought
But it hasn't
did.
worked in this property yet.
Hasn't.
They just charge higher fees, from what I understand.
Too many lawyers.
So you got that right. Okay, does anybody else have any questions? Does anybody else, what do we think? We don't vote on it. Does anybody have any problem with him? Do we think in 4 years, 10 years from now it'll work? I don't see a problem with it.
It's going to be a plus. I mean, if you look there on Old Colerain, that's exactly what it is residences and estates and rural residences. I mean, that's character of that street.
Right.
This is not going to be something that anybody's going to develop, even if
Right.
U.S. Steel came in and built a blast furnace on the old Miami Valley property, which I would hold my
I'd like to
breath
see
for.
that.
Yeah. But I wouldn't see a difficulty with it. If I were voting on it, I would not see it.
Mrs. Smith?
I don't see any concern
Great.
Okay. Well, it looks like if this group was here when you come in, you'll be okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Have we answered your questions?
Did we answer all yours? Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is 2668 Springdale Avenue. A change from R6 Urban Residential District to PDB Business Plan Development. Staff, do you have anything?
We do not.
Okay. Is the applicant here? Do they have anything?
My name is John Greer. I'm an architect working with Peter and Andy Patel. Their family owns 15 gas station convenience stores throughout the city. I've worked with them on ones before. They're very successful, and obviously if they have 15 of them, they're trying to build another one. They're quite successful. And I'd like to make the presentation, if I could. Did you have that on?
I'm unable to get it up.
Okay, well, that will be okay, because I can lay the prints out and talk to you about them using the.
Are they different than what we have?
Are they different than what we have? We got a set of them.
They do have packets.
If they have you have the plans opened up, and I can, that, this one should be correctly. Let's see, there's a floor plan. Well, let me put it in front of you. These plans, and we don't, they don't have them.
They should have them.
This is the one. This is the
Do
one.
you have some?
We don't have the plan. We have the elevation, not the plan.
It's all good. 3 pages.
Okay, well, we're going to see that you have,
Just lay it out here.
we'll be able to do it like this, and you two can share. And I'll try to explain, and then we have another one. Here, I got it here. And the first one, sheet A, 1.0, is indicate, sheet here, and let me have this. We were supposed to address.
Good, you need to go out there so they can hear it on Waycross TV.
Okay, well, this is an informal, so is it
But it's still on TV and you need to be where they can hear
Okay,
you.
well, I'll just move back and forth. I'll try to do it as good as I can without that. We're requesting, as you said, the change from R6 to PDB. And first, regarding the compatibility, our retail building is 1 story. You do have the elevations of those that show a hipped and gabled shingled roof, because we are trying to maintain a residential style. There would be no rooftop equipment on there. The exterior walls would be brick or siding, similar to the residences in the neighborhood. The windows would only face the street sides. In other words, the west and rear walls that are facing the residential zoned areas would not have any windows in them, no store windows of any sort. The footprint of the building would be 5,375 square feet. This is similar to other convenience and gas station stores. A similar use, of course, as you know, exists on the south side of Springdale Road in a gas station that's over there. Lighting from our canopy and poles would be directed down to cut down on light spillage over to the neighbors. The light requirement shall follow the code, section 12.9. And as I said, there's a gas station across the street that's zoned in a zoned area B2. We're asking for the PUD B, because land development B, so it can be more strictly watched and that you know exactly what's going to be there. The density, our building and canopy total, that's the building with the gas canopy, which is a separate structure that covers just the gas pumping stations, is total 7,775 square feet. The entire property is 41,350 square feet. The lot's really called an acre and a quarter, but I think some of the right-of-way is included in that, and this 41,390 it removes the right-of-way, so that's our actual site, our actual allowable site, and then the building coverage is 19% of the site. The impervious surface, including the structures, blacktop, the structures, the gas island tank covers, is 28,000. The parking and all that's 28,150, which covers 68% of the site, or 32 is in planting and landscaping. Required parking for the retail commercial users is 4 spaces per 1,000. Thus our square footage of 5,375 divided by 4, we need 22 spaces. And we're not, in our case, not including the gas pump spaces. We have proposed 24 spaces on the site, including a loading and dumpster space. Buffering and landscaping, this zoning requirement we shall follow as carefully as possible. And now I'm going to explain our request to be considered for a planned development B, the site plan, which I'm going to come up and point to, but right now I'll read it because it needs to go on the record with the TV. The site plan sheet A 1.0 shows the site with the setback requirements of 50 feet to the street and 40 feet for residential property. Our gas station convenience store would not be able to fit operationally in that shaded dark area. And let me stop reading here and just point to on this sheet here. This would be the shaded part would be the area we're able to build in, which is this spot, and then and that shows the required setbacks of 50 feet to the streets, 40 feet to the side yards, which we have there, and those numbers are all in those locations. And as I said, it really would not fit in that, and the distance is shown on our site plan sheet A 1.1 show the requested setbacks, and the distances are necessary for proper operation of our building. In the areas where we are not meeting the required setbacks for a B PUD space, the distances are that there would be a solid 6-foot high fence and intensive planting, which would be installed and maintained, and now I'll point that out. That's on this sheet here, and our that we would require a setback of 30 feet under a planned development, which would be here, but we are requesting remediation from that in this amount and having a solid building here and then planting in that area. Then on this side, we would be encroaching by about 10 feet here with the roof of the gas island just to make the operation work with the parking and pull in and exiting. Then this area, we're maintaining that 40 feet setback. And of course the fencing continues around here. It would be solid wood fencing all the way down, protecting this residence, and solid wood fencing to protect this residence. And of course the ones across the street, we'd have planting here to help them, and that is shown. This is our encroachment into the 30-foot. This is our encroachment into 30 feet here, and this one we're maintaining. And this is the solid wood fence with the planting behind it that would, or the building with no windows that would shield this residence and that residence. And then, in summary, I realize that we're asking for a number of concessions for this zone, but I believe a construction of a residence on this property is not really likely, and that's really just evidenced by the fact that nothing's been built there for a long, long time. There was some commercial ventures that wanted to go in, but they just did not do it. In order to put something there that you have complete control over, we're requesting that the planned unit situation be looked at for this project. So now I'll be quiet and listen for any comments. That would be appreciated.
I hate to start off and rain on your parade, but you're the third person that's been in here to change that to a business, and we've turned them all down on this site, and we've turned everybody down. And one of the reasons we do that, first of all, that building doesn't fit on that lot. Secondly, you're going to have problems with parking. Thirdly, ingress and egress out on that corner is already dangerous with one gas station there. And the only reason that's there is because it's been there for 40 years. That's long before we ever did zoning here. Because I don't know about my colleagues, but I wouldn't have put one in there. So, and you're going to have a tough time convincing us that that should be a business, that should go in there. Because one of the things that bothers me in particular is the fact that retail is creeping up the streets in residential areas and eating up residential areas. And Springdale is particularly bad. And then there's other streets that it is. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't want it there. Now my colleagues, I don't know how they feel.
That's pretty clear.
I don't know how they feel, but, you know, any of you want to speak up to it?
I was here when they came before with the plan. It looked like it's awfully close to residents to me. And I don't know how you could buffer your project from the residents that have been there for quite some time. And I guess I do want to ask you, have you spoken to the residents to see what their input would be or their concerns would be?
Well, the Patel family did speak to residence owners adjacent, and the prices that they want, they seem to think it's going to be a windfall, and they're going to get many, many dollars for over the market value for their house and property. So they're not willing to sell for anything that's close to the price that a real estate appraiser would give for the property for both of those houses.
You're talking about the two that are right adjacent.
Yeah, there's just two that are adjacent to it, and so they would, if you buy their property, they'd want it to be built, but if you wouldn't, then they would probably,
Well, those aren't the only residents, so that's pretty much.
across the street then, no, I don't believe they've talked to anybody across the street on the other side of the road.
Do we know if the stuff across the road is owner occupied or rentals?
Well, I think the one,
Single family, but that doesn't mean it's.
I think that at least two of them are owner occupied.
Well, it's all single family, they aren't allowed to have apartments, and
My question was,
they could be just rental properties. I don't know, do you have any? No, they don't. But they just had contact with the two that are adjacent, because it'd been requested or suggested one time, try to see if you can get that other property, one of those other properties, and then you'd have something that could be more buffered even better than that.
I mean, the other residents that remain, even if you got those two houses that you're talking about, what about the other residents that will remain in the community? It would be a concern, to me anyway. Other thing is a lot of traffic. It's gonna produce more traffic than able to handle, I believe. Right at that intersection, bad intersection anyway. So, I wouldn't do it.
And I guess there's two of the zoning commission that aren't here tonight. Do you have any idea what they think about this? If there's been
Well,
three
we haven't turned it
other,
down the last time, so.
if there'd been two other, those two people were on when they refused the previous request, but they refused
One of
the,
them did, I know.
Okay.
I guess my only comment is this, I mean, you've got a thoughtful plan, you've got a, you know, you've done what you can with that space. I have a very hard time with the facts of it, though, that you aren't trying to get too much into the space. And I mean, I could recite some of the same, to me, those are factual concerns, even though I think, you know, I mean, you guys have come in with what would be a good plan if it fit and if it were somewhere else. I mean, I could see being enthusiastic about what you're doing, but not enthusiastic about it here.
but you're thinking that at that site, even if we had the other two residences, that you're trying to maintain a residential character at that corner, other than, of course, the across the street one that's been there for 40 years. And,
Generally, that would be where I am. I mean, that's what the land use plan calls for.
Yeah,
I mean, the only thing that would, if we got the other two properties, which we can't get because they aren't willing to sell them for a reasonable price, then we could move the access roads
Yeah, I mean, if you had
away.
them, you could do some other stuff, but, you know, you still wouldn't make me enthusiastic, because you'd be in here with another one, and another residence there, right? Another residence there. I mean, no matter how you do it, this plan encroaches on what the township is called for as residential. And that's the fundamental issue here, as well as I said.
Well, it's zoned
You're
residential,
probably
we'd
putting
be-
too much into the space, but, you know, so I guess I would encourage, you know, if you're successful and you're looking for another place, look around some other places in Colerain Township and see what you can find, because, you know, I mean,
It is a good plan.
it's a good plan, but it's just not on this space.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate that. Ms. Randall was going to give us the chance to ask you, and we have done so, and you've answered fairly succinctly, so thank you very much.
Is there, next on the agenda is old business. Do we have any old business? Okay.
No, we don't.
Okay, next on the agenda, next item on the agenda is new business, initiation of a text amendments, addition of alternative financial service provider language in the zoning code. Staff, I believe you're talking about check cashing, right?
Yes. As you all are probably aware, last August, on August the 12th, the Colerain Township Board of Trustees approved a one-year moratorium on any permits issued for alternative financial service providers. These are the check into cash or payday loans type alternative financial services. This moratorium was issued in order to allow the township some time to study the impacts of these businesses in the community and try to figure out a way to mitigate any negative impacts to the community and to neighboring property owners. At that time, we were receiving a lot of requests for these types of businesses in the community. So we've taken some time to study what other communities are doing with regard to regulation, and staff has drafted a text amendment that has been reviewed by legal counsel that would specifically address these types of uses in the zoning resolution. The draft text amendment would allow for alternative financial service providers as a permitted use within the B1 zoning district with additional use-specific requirements. So this would be the P with an asterisk on the permitted uses table. And those use-specific requirements would include a restriction on the number of alternative financial service providers permitted in the township to 1 per 20,000 residents. There would be a restriction on locations within 1,000 feet of another such use, and also a restriction on locations that are within 200 feet of residential zoning districts. The process that this would take, if the zoning commission chooses to initiate this type of text amendment, is that it would next, the text amendment would next go to the Hamilton County Regional Planning Commission. They would provide a review and comment at their next meeting. It would come back to Planning Commission with their review and comment attached to it. And then the Zoning Commission would provide for a recommendation to the Board of Trustees, and the trustees would have the final vote on it. So that would be the process, but what we're asking for tonight is to initiate this text amendment in that process.
Okay, thank you. I think all of us have read it. The chair would entertain a motion to initiate this text amendment and send it down to the Regional Planning Commission. Well, no.
I have a number of
Okay.
questions for staff.
I'm sorry.
My first question is, how many of these, say 1 per 20,000 residents, how many are permitted? It's 3 or 4, right? I mean, depending on how
Three,
you're round,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, so you say 3 or 4, how many of them have we got?
That is a very...
3 or 4 that we hear at home.
There's probably,
That's a very good question, and I knew you were going to ask that, and I did my best to try to come up with an answer, but I don't have an exact number for you, but I believe we're at that limit now.
Oh, come on, you gotta be.
there's that many up and down Colerain Avenue.
Colerain.
Does that include title loans for your car?
Yep.
Yes.
And pawn shops,
There,
right? And check cashing. We've got to be above. We've got to be already above that density.
we've got to be 40,
We've got to
50,
be.
you know.
Correct.
I was ready to say that, but maybe I'll.
That seems like
10 to 15, I
it's
don't
maybe
know.
20 to
But it's
30.
sure isn't 3. So that would basically say, if this text amendment were adopted, there would be no available space to do this, right? Now, that leads me to my next question. Is 1 per 20,000 defensible? In other words, is that comparable to what other zoning agencies have done? Is it comparable to what model codes say? Is it?
And according to legal counsel, yes, that would be
A reasonable number.
Yes.
That would be a reasonable, that we could say, that's adequate to service the,
Now, there may be, once this goes through additional review, there may be some changing on that thought, or there may be some additional recommendations or comments on that, and I would anticipate that. But at this time, legal counsel has reviewed it and is okay with
they
that.
think
Yeah.
that is, all right.
Does he expect a lawsuit?
Well, given that he's okay with the language,
Well, I mean,
yeah.
it just says if somebody wants to, if
Right.
somebody says they want it bad enough to do that, that's what courts are for, but.
And this would not affect any existing
Okay, that was my,
businesses
my
as
question.
far as uses. This would be any new
So we couldn't add
business
any.
coming into the community asking for a new permit.
It would be
But
zero
what
at this
about,
point.
now, hold on, what about, I mean, a lot of these are not. The issue would be rentals, right? I mean, I'm sure all these things are rentals, right? We don't, so how does this really manage it? In other words, if I'm an alternative finance service provider, I say, well, I'm going to Colerain and rent myself a storefront. It doesn't come before zoning. How are you gonna police that, right? Because, I mean, you'd say, well, sorry, that's not a permitted use of a B1 business district because we're already full up on AFSPs. But,
Correct.
I mean, how
They
about-
would likely come to ask for a face change on a sign, or would come if they're doing any changes to the site. So we would likely encounter any new user that comes into the community through that realm. But
And you're more
yeah.
optimistic than I am.
yeah,
Well, I'm serious. I mean, these are small little, what
They're
they need.
just
You
little-
need a neon sign in a window. I mean, it's not like this is a
Yeah.
high overhead business. Next question. Within B1, and given the 1,000-foot restriction and the 200 feet of residential zoning districts, I'm assuming there are more sites which meet those criteria than the permitted number, right? In other words, we can only have 3 or 4. I can find 3 or 4 sites in current zone B1 businesses that are not within 1,000 feet of another one and not within 200 feet of a residential.
yes, I believe you could. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we have to, or
Yeah.
we're gonna, it's not defensible, so I assume our council looked at that and said, we're okay on that front? It's adequate?
And that's something we can look at
Well, I
further
mean,
too.
it just,
Yeah.
make sure that that's the kind of thing, if it's gonna be defensible,
Mhm.
council probably looked at, just to reassure yourself, if not me, that we can say, yep, there's adequate numbers of sites in B1 districts that meet our criteria for the number of permitted AFSPs. I think that's all I had. Oh,
Okay.
One more. We are also happy, we've looked at model codes and stuff, that we've got AFSPs properly defined. There's not some other way that somebody can basically conduct the same nature of operations would not be covered by these.
Yeah, my understanding is that the definitions are pretty
Standard.
pretty broad. Yeah.
Questions?
Okay.
And I apologize for not having a lot more information for you at this point. This was kind of pulled together from some language that Jeff had put together, before he left. But when we come back and review this again, assuming that you want to move the language forward, we can certainly have more detailed information prepared for you at that point in terms of how many of these businesses currently exist and what areas would be allowable under this.
Yeah, those would be my 2 questions, because, I mean, there's a part of me that says, we can say, well, we aren't enthusiastic about that, and 1 per 20,000 is adequate, but the market may be telling us it should be 1 per 5,000. Well, I mean, that's the market talking, not us.
Right.
And if that's true, I mean, on what basis are we saying 1 per 20 is good enough for us, go somewhere else, right? I mean, that's what bothers me.
Right.
The logic here is, this 1 per 20,000 seems kind of arbitrary, given if we're right, that there's a substantially higher density of that already. The market's telling you, we want way more of these, and you're saying, well, we don't happen to like them, so therefore, you know, we're gonna make it tough. I mean, to me, that's the issue that bothers me, and facts would be very helpful in sorting that out.
Sure.
Maybe we only have 3, I don't know. Maybe we only have 3, 4. I find that inconceivable, but, you know, that's what I think. But again, if that's so, and they're all finding business, then where did we come up, on what basis did we come up with 1 per 20,000? That's my question.
I'd like to ask a question. How have other communities handled the situation?
My understanding is that this, you know, the language that has been put forth here is very in keeping with what other communities are doing, that they're allowing them within a specific district, but then they're putting restrictions on the location and proximity to other types of uses. So
And it
this
doesn't
is,
affect anything that's there already now. We're, the institution that are there now, they will fall on this.
right, they would be in existence prior to this being adopted. So they wouldn't be, you know, they would not be required to close or anything like that. It would only affect someone who's coming forward as a new use under this type of use.
Okay, thank you.
And I want to come back to one of my other questions again, make sure I understood the answer. If I'm one of these guys and I come in and I say, I'm going to rent the storefront, theoretically, that is creating a non-conforming use within a B1 district if I'm already over on the number of these things, correct?
Trying to think how that would, well,
See what I'm getting at?
it would require a variance to be permitted then, yeah.
Well, I mean, but what's the permit process? If I rent an empty storefront,
Well,
I move a desk and a chair and a security guard stool in. What?
can you restate your question? I'm not sure I understand
Again,
what
I'm
you're.
trying to say, is it true that if I am one of these, let's say I own a storefront on Colerain Avenue, and I'm approached by a check cashing company. They say, I'd like to rent your storefront, Rich. And I say, okay, fine. That is a non-conforming use of my current permitted storefront, right?
Well, it wouldn't technically
What
be,
recourse does the township have?
it would be a zoning
Yeah.
violation, is what it would be, yeah.
That's, yeah.
So it would, someone would have there would have to be a notice that's made to the department that there's been a violation by this use coming in, and then we would have to look at it as a zoning violation. Had they not gone through any type of process to be
Right,
allowed that use,
right.
yeah.
But I mean, nothing, I guess what I'm thinking is in many cases, perhaps most, certainly many cases, there will be nothing to trigger the normal review processes.
You're correct in that assumption, other than if they come through the door asking for a permit for a sign or for some other reason. That's correct, yeah.
Anyone else?
I realize that the moratorium was for 1 year, established on August the 12th of 14. With our change of staff and so forth, and you're coming in and picking up, so to speak, the pieces of this that was started under Mr. Mills, don't know if it's possible, but would you feel more comfortable having another month to work on this and research it and so forth, rather than us take action tonight?
Good idea.
I am going to be putting a resolution together to the Board of Trustees for the August, I believe it's 4th or 7th trustee meeting, to extend the moratorium for another 60 or 90 days. So this will, the process to initiate the language and to get it all the way through to the trustees adopting the language takes a few months in itself. So I would leave that up to this commission's discretion. If you would like to spend some more time considering it before you launch it through the process. I don't know if there's any restriction on how long we can extend the moratorium for, but I believe 60 or 90 days would be fine. So if we waited another month to initiate the language, I think that would be okay. But again, it's such a long process.
You're eroding the timeline. If you've got 60 or 90 days, we delay it 30, we've already used up half.
Right.
And that has not gotten anything in front of the county yet. I
And
think
this-
they're gonna be hard pressed at 90 days if we initiate this tonight. I think they're
Right.
hard pressed.
And I don't think there's any problem at all with the language being tweaked as it works through the process. As it gets reviewed and comments and, so I think being able to initiate it would be a good thing. But I would leave that up to this group's discretion.
But would you have a greater level of comfort if you had another month before we took action on this? Would it help you to do anything more, educate yourself more about
We need to
areas
get this
you're not
going.
sure of or anything like that?
You
I
can
would-
do that
Yeah,
after we initiate.
we can continue to do that. I don't think it's necessary. Yeah.
How about if we do two amendments? One, to initiate this, and the other to ask you to request a 90-day extension on the moratorium.
Okay.
Would that work?
Yeah.
Okay. The chair would entertain a motion to initiate the approval of language for AFSPs in the Colerain Township. Do we have a, so moved. Do we have a second? It's been moved and seconded. We have more on these separately, don't we? It's been moved and seconded that we initiate the language that we need, initiate the text amendment for the language regarding AFSSPs. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Grody,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Lau,
Aye.
Mr. Westfall.
Aye. Okay, now the chair would entertain a motion to have the building planning and zoning director request of the trustees a 90-day extension of the moratorium. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we have the director request a 90-day extension of the moratorium on AFSPs. Do we have, to the trustees? Could we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Lau, Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Grody,
Yes.
Mr. Westfall.
Aye. Okay, next on the agenda is, oh, by the way, both those motions carried. Next on the agenda is anything for the administration? Do we have anything?
Not at this time.
Next is announcements. Do we have any announcements?
No.
Other than maybe the Taste of Colerain's coming up
Yeah.
in August. I think, what is it, 7th and 8th or 6th and
7th,
7th?
8th. Yeah.
Okay. All of our people, please come. Okay, the next meeting of the zoning commission is Tuesday, August the 18th, 2015. The chair will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It's been seconded, moved and seconded that we adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?